Ashley Taggart and Stephen Jeffries. Is there any other apologies?
Yeah, Arun Kumar.
Say that again, please.
Arun.
Arun. Thank you.
Any other apologies? Right, I just, if someone could just move that those apologies be accepted. Thanks, Graham. Seconder?
Yeah.
Thanks, Graham. Righty. Right, thanks to our very efficient secretary, the minutes of the 116th Annual General Meeting were circulated prior to the meeting, so hopefully everyone's had a chance to read those. Can I just get someone to confirm that they are correct, an accurate record of the 116th Annual General Meeting? Someone that was at that meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Alan. Seconder. Thanks, Matthew. Those in favour? Right. Is there any matters arising from those minutes? Okay. Right, we'll move on. It's very good, making good progress here, which is always really good. So, the annual report, firstly, I'd just like to thank Gareth, who's done a tremendous job to draft up an annual general report, full of a lot of good information. For sure, once we get it released, there's a couple of copies floating around. But I'm not going to read my chairman's report verbatim. Just a few, probably 5 points I'd like to make, because you take as read within the annual report. Just first sort of year in the role as the chairman, and I've been sort of involved with other administration, sports administration, tennis and junior cricket and what have you. And I'd just really like to acknowledge the work of previous committees, our current committee, and all those that put their hand up to help out with the club. But basically, the club does rely on volunteers. I think, the social fabric of society has changed. People are working, and I know it's harder. But, I do acknowledge and I thank everybody, probably within this room, that do continue to contribute to the club. Now, if you're one that is yet to contribute, it can be in any small way, whether it's attending a social event, helping on the bar, or anything like that. I do encourage, put your hand up rather than your hand out. We've got some really good members, so take that opportunity. The second point is our turnaround in our financial result, and I'm not going to steal Scotty's thunder, but after 3 years of consecutive losses, it will be pleasing, and Scott will go through the numbers, that 21-22 year we have a surplus. And a lot of good, I'm not going to name names, but certainly the support of our business partners, some of the work, I'm going to name a name, that Mark's done in securing that, it's been sensational. The work that Mike Rowan's done and Graham in the funding, with a funding organisation, and we also have had some generous donations in the 21-22 season. But as Scott goes through our financials, you'll see that to run a club of this size takes quite a bit to finance. So all I can say is, with our funding partners, business partners, the more support we can give them, the better. We've also, just with our facilities, the club is, the club rooms, as good as they are a wee bit tired. We know that we have some strengthening work to do. We need to refresh with, downstairs with the changing rooms and make them fit for purpose for men and women going forward. So we've commissioned Jacobs Munro, Lockie Munro, who plays for the club, and the president. They're doing some concept designs for us as we look to improve the club facilities. So it's going to be a major project that we'll be undertaking. We'll get the concept designs done. Hopefully this time next year we'll have our kitchen upgrade completed, and we'll have plans going forward for the rest of the club. But just some small things have already changed. You might see that there's a leaner here. We're going to have the chairs reupholstered and such like. So there's small things happening all the time. And last year the bar, which is a pretty central part of the club rooms, got a major overhaul. So again, a lot of work in front of us, but quite exciting as well. Point 4, just probably in the last 2 months, most will be aware that we had a partnership with Maribel Papanui Club with Northwest Women. Northwest Women has been, I think, a really success story for both clubs. It was formed in 2019, and there was really good growth right through. And then we got a letter from Mirabel Pat, and they wanted to withdraw from that partnership. Now, we didn't think that was the best for women's cricket. However, that's a choice that they have made, and from a Burnside point of view, we're certainly going to embrace having the North West women under our umbrella. This will be their home, and we're going to continue to grow and invest in our women's game. So whilst we were disappointed, we'll turn around and see it as a good opportunity to integrate the ladies and girls. They're a pretty young group we have. And the fifth one I'd like to just mention is that the committee and key stakeholders, we've been looking at our strategic plan for the next 5 years, and it's based on 6 strategic pillars, I guess, or imperatives, from governance, stakeholder engagement, financial sustainability, pathways, facilities, and attract and retain. There's a bit mentioned within the annual report, but the document's not finalised at this point. So there's a wee bit more work to do, but quite exciting to get this documented. And the key with any of these is putting a plan in place. We can't do everything in 12 months or 24 months, but to put a plan in place to ensure that we continue to improve our offering. And you know, part of our vision, it's just not about cricket. We want to make sure this is a community-based, yeah, cricket's part of it, but it's got to be more than cricket. So those were the key points I wanted to raise just within the chairman's report. Now, happy to take any questions at this point. David.
The major works you've got going ahead, how much is envisaging you require from a financial point of view to do these things?
Yeah, we haven't probably got to that detail yet, David, but we would be, I'm going to, the cost of any restructure is quite, yeah, I would say anywhere from $250,000 to $350,000, somewhere in that quantum. Club rooms, I think we're about 47% of the building standard for a start. The ceiling contains asbestos, so that does need removing. There's some structural work we want to do. We've got the kitchen, we've got the toilets, and certainly a reconfiguration downstairs with changing rooms and appropriate showering facilities and such like. So, as I say, we won't do it in 1 or 2 years, but we'll get a plan in place and progressively work towards it.
You probably know as good as anyone. So there's 6 stages for the start, and a lot of them are planning, so we can stop at any point in those stages, and we just start off paying $1,000 or $1,500, and then on to the next stage and get what we want. So we'll just be able to chip away at it.
There's a lot of thousands and 300,000.
Certainly do.
Yeah, it is, but I think if we want to retain our status as a leading club in Canterbury, which I think we are at this stage, we just got to, a big task in front of us, but we want to set the scene for the next 10, 20 years for the club. So it's going to be a big effort, David, for sure. Yeah, Grant.
Just one question. With the demise or the withdrawal of Mirabel Pat, has there been any consideration or thought as to merging North West into Burnside, under the Burnside name?
The youth as well, or just the women?
Probably just the woman.
Yeah, it's sort of,
Respect.
it's only 2 months ago that we got the news from Mirabel Pat.
Yeah.
The Northwest brand, which I might want to comment on, it's quite a strong brand. Now, we'll certainly keep it for the next 12 months. Now, whether we incorporate that going forward, yes, it's a decision we have yet to discuss. But it has, it's gone through my mind as well. We've got, all the uniforms and bits and pieces around the Northwest. But, I'd say ultimately that's probably the direction it will go. But I think in first place is really to integrate them into our club, make them feel really welcome. They're a good team. They've done some great things in the last few years. I think they've won against every other club. And these girls, some of the 17, 18, they're quite a young group, premium ladies. And highlighters with Izzy Sharp, I should say, becoming a contracted player. Izzy, parents were at Pleasant Point when she got to her first game for the Magicians. gave her mother a ring, and she was just rapt with Northwest Women. Not rapt for her daughter, but she was just really complimentary of the opportunity Izzy had had with Northwest Women. Any other questions at all? If not, I'll just move that the annual report is adopted. So is there a seconder? Thanks, Mike. All those in favour?
Aye.
That passed.
What?
Right. I'll now move on to the financial annual accounts. I'll ask Scott Inglis.
Cool. Yeah, so we should all be very pleased with where we've ended up this year. It's cost $216,000 to run the club in the last 12 months. But the surplus of $19,000 this year is a $34,000 turnaround from last year, which is outstanding. There's been funding increases of around $16,000 on last year, so a huge thanks to Graham Campbell, Michael Rome, and in some emergencies, Gareth Gibson. Subs increases have come to about $10,000 over last year, and that's a combination of raising the subs and having more teams involved to collect subs, so that's been good as well. Just like to note that subs only contribute about 18% of the club's costs, and about 20% pay for about 20% of the club's costs, and only contribute about 18% of the club's income. So that's kind of a small bit really, but important. Grant sponsorships and donation has risen a massive 31,000 over last year, and so I guess at that point we've got to stop and recognise the work that Mark Sani's done. He's done a lot of work with generating connections and creating partnerships and engagement with current and past club members and businesses in our community. So thank you very much, Mark, for the work you've done in the last 12 months, and also look forward to seeing further progress you can make in the next 12 months. Expenses, they're up 14,000 on last year, as you'd expect with growth in the club, with the extra teams that we've got in. Bar expenses are up 10,000, but they're offset by the income that's been made from the bar. And cricket equipment is up by about 10,000 as well, as you'd expect. So yeah, that result is very, very good. Cash-wise, whilst I'd say it's great that we've made that money, really it's not nearly as important as how much cash the club has got. So we didn't make any capital purchases last year, so all of that cash has been added into club funds. But with the losses over the 3 years previous to that, we still need another 1.5 to 2 years of the same to get us back in the position that we were in 3 years ago. So that's important to note, especially with the growth in the size of the club and pressure on facilities that that money's going to be required in the future. So yeah, that's where we're at. It's been really good. If you guys can help, please pay your subs. We're volunteers, don't make us spend our weekends and evenings chasing up your subs. And if you can't pay the full subs or clothing invoices up front, just email the Treasury account and we'll set up automatic payment, no big deal. Thanks.
So, any questions for Scott on the annual accounts? Just want to reiterate, it's a tremendous turnaround and some really good work going on, but with Scott, we need to generate surpluses so we can reinvest in the facility, into coaching, whatever it may be going forward, to ensure we remain very sustainable going forward, a club that people want to be a part of. So,
Sorry, I'll just mention the final results are still, there's been a delay this year getting the annual results prepared and through the accountants, so they're still with the auditors this year, but I don't expect them to change more than $1,000 or something like that. So, so can I move that the finances are accepted?
is there a seconder for that? Thanks, Mike. Those in favour? Pass. Alrighty, we move on to the election of officers for the 22-23 season, or through to the next annual general meeting. So we'll start with a club patron. I certainly will nominate Grant Dixon. So we have a seconder for that, please.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. I should say, is there any other nominations? Nominations closed. All those in favour of Grant, say aye. Aye. Congratulations, Grant. I'll just vacate the chair and I'll just ask, well, literally, but physically, I'll just stay put, but I'll just hand over to Gareth.
Great. So I think Peter's done a great job in his first year in the role, and I fully endorse and support him continuing. It's been great to have him on board. He's brought some measure and balance to the committee meetings, which I think has been very welcome. So I'd like to nominate Peter to continue as chair. Seconder.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. And let's vote. Favour? Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure the contribution really a little better. As I said probably in my opening, having some experienced committee members has been very helpful because we are quite a complicated, in many ways, club. There's not a lot of moving parts, I can assure you. So, as I said, the committee's done our club very proud over the last 12 months and all those that have served prior to that to set up where we are today. So, a lot of learning, and I've sold I was going to say it's not right, I've sold a club with beautiful, fantastic history, very proud past, and with a lot of potential. So, but I wasn't sold the full story by Gareth and Shane as they twisting my arm some 14, 15 months ago. But thank you. We move on to treasurer nominations. I'm going to nominate Scott Inglis, Club Legend. I've got a seconder. Thank you, Matt. Any other nominations? Okay, those in favour? Aye. Carried. Thank you, Scott. Moving on to secretary, and Scott's done a wonderful job. He's got Campbell helping in the background now, which is really good to get support in there. But the club secretary, the amount of work that Gareth does for the club, his communications. Look, if you haven't, this is a draft of the annual report. I mean, this is no mean feat. It's a high quality annual report with a lot of good reading in it, for sure. I said him in my chairman's report, and when I went to read it, I was trying to work out, what's the same. A couple of my bullet points got through, but no, he did a great job in putting this together. So huge thanks from me, Gareth, for all the work that you do. It's outstanding. So a pleasure actually, and I'm pleased that Gareth is happy to be re-nominated this year. So I'm going to nominate Gareth as secretary. As secretary for that. Thanks, Grant. Those in favour? Aye. Gary, well done, Gary. What I'm going to do with the executive committee, just as a group really, just nominate the following, because none of them have resigned. So we have Will O'Brien, Shane Young, Matthew Hay, Will Kennedy, Tim Scott, Campbell Wheathorn, Michael Rowan, Mark Seeney, Dave Robinson, and Graham Campbell, Jonathan Collins, and Flint Rogers. So I'm going to nominate them as one group. So I just need a seconder for that. Of course, to get out, you do have to officially resign. So can I have a seconder for that, please? Seconder? Oh, thanks, Mike. In favour? Aye. Pass. Now, is there any other nominations for the committee? One of the things when we've been going through our strategic plan, one of the things we need to do as a committee is just spend some time over the next month or two is just how we actually structure going forward. We set up some subcommittees and bits and pieces with Northwest and what have you, but we certainly do want to get some ladies involved in the committee. So we will second and if we have some volunteers from that area. All right. I'm going to ask Scotty, just each year we need to approve the subs, so I'm just going to get Scott to speak to that. pass a motion for acceptance.
Yeah, we did raise them last year. We don't want to make them too onerous though. I guess we just want to keep them at the current level, so I'm moving that we keep subs at the current level. Oh, sorry, actually, there's a bit of change.
Yeah, it's changed to the closed team.
Sorry,
So they've got 200 each, the first two bullet points.
yeah, okay, so there's a couple of increases for the closed team. So if there's any complaints or anything, speak up now, but otherwise, I'll just move that.
I'll second that. Those in favour?
No.
Carried. Thanks, Scott, that was
Smooth.
pretty smooth. Now, there's an area that Jack Kerr Pride, honouring members and bits and pieces. I certainly fall into that category, so we're really keen to drive that part of our subscription. One of the things that we started doing in the last 12 months is re-engaging with past players. We had a fantastic initiative, Matt Hayes, capping night for those that have played 100 plus games for the club, but that was well received, and just recently I think Shane and Matt went round and Graham presented Graham Dowling with his cap, which he was tickled pink to receive. So great initiative. We've got Rent Work, Steve Hawkins come on board as a sponsor. He wants to do more than that. He spoke to the senior team pre-season last year. So re-engaging with our past players and our community is really important to us. All right, we'll move on to general business. Is there any general? We've got one item on the general business list. Is there any other general business anyone would like to raise? Okay, that's great. So it's pretty.
Gary's not here.
I think. Like I'm just going to ask Shane Young. Oh, it was Gareth. Okay, well I'm going to ask Gareth. He's very good at passing the buck, is that man? But this is a special occasion. I'm just going to hand over to Gareth.
Thanks, Peter. So something that the committee does every year when we prepare for the annual general meeting is we have a bit of a chat about what's happened over the year and if there are any special members of the club that we'd like to acknowledge. And the way that we can do that is through life membership. And this year we do have a new nomination for a life member of the club, and that person is someone who is very dear and important to all of us, and his name is Peter Isle. I'd just like to give a little bit of a bio of Peter and the contributions that he's made to this club. And this was put together, I believe, by Shane, so thanks Shane. I'm going to read it out.
Peter Burke.
By Peter Burke, thank you.
And Tricia.
And I think there's a sentence added to the end, perhaps by you. I don't know. Anyway, so Peter Ian Isle has been a loyal and faithful member of Burnside West Christchurch University Cricket Club for 35 years. Every Saturday morning, without fail, during the summer season, Peter arrives with a smile on his face, ready and willing to help anyone who needs a hand, be it ground staff, bar staff, club members, players, including the opposition, and as well the umpires too. After arriving early at 7 a.m, he readily ticks off anyone who arrives later than himself, especially Peter Burke and Mike Fisher. Peter has many important duties. He is responsible for providing the milk, filling and boiling the urn for tea, and hopefully remembering to turn the water tap off, putting out the flags. How many paces, Peter?
25.
25 paces per flag, bringing them in and looking after the scoreboard, as well as general duties around the club. He has a very keen interest and knowledge of cricket, and often gives players advice and encouragement before and during the match. In fact, I think he's perfected the art of timing when to provide his advice. And he has found that just after a batsman's been dismissed is usually the best time to impart his advice. Peter is never reluctant to make a speech on his behalf or for others. Once the day's duties have been completed, it's either bike or bus back to Hornby, occasionally stopping off at Cuts Road for fish and chips. Peter's hidden talents are not only confined to the cricket club, as he also appeared on the TV1 Good Sorts program. Peter was introduced to sport at an early age by his father Noel, who used to take him to Kaiapoi to watch and help out at the Kaiapoi Bulldogs Rugby League games. When the family moved to Burnside, Peter discovered Burnside Oval, and there was no looking back. Apart from his cricket commitments in summer, Peter became a linesman for Hornby and Riccarton Rugby League. Through plenty of encouragement from his parents, Noel and Dawn, including his other 3 siblings, Michael, Patricia and Susan, along with neighbour Tina Byfield, they always made sure Peter was able to carry out his duties at the club. Peter worked at Carter Holt Harvey from 1969 to 2009 and won an award there for 40 years of service. Over the years, Peter has been a valuable asset to Burnside West Christchurch University Cricket Club, and we hope that his long-term friendship with the club continues for many more years. As you can see, Peter is truly a worthy recipient to receive his life membership from the Burnside West Christchurch University Cricket Club. Well done, Bussy.
Peter, would you like to say a few words or?
Song.
It's very good of you being in the Wild Isles family. It's tradition, isn't it, when you get a life membership, I believe, at the club, it's shout at the bar. I know Peter told me the first words that came out of his mouth, I haven't got any cash.
I do like to say something, Peter.
Sure. Good.
I'd like to thank everyone to come to this annual meeting. My sister Trisha next to me, and Barbara and Charlie, and Lana and Josh, and the new baby just born last month, and Greg, baby just got born last month. The baby's called Henry, so thank you very much to come along and enjoy this meeting 2022.
Well, see you, Peter.
I think that's a fantastic note to bring this meeting to a close. So welcome you to stay back, have a drink, socialise, and let's look forward to a fantastic season which kicks off this Saturday. So here we go.
Here we go.
Thank you very much. Thank you.